I just think that by creating a brand with a purpose and with a very clear vision, that makes it much harder for your consumers to say no to a product that just seems like a good brand.
That's really good advice. So what I'm taking away is that you need that personal touch to help sell instead of just putting out ads. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Spark Buddies podcast. I'm your host, Esther. Today, I will be speaking with Lila, who will share her entrepreneurial journey with us. She won second place in the 2025 Blue Ocean Pitch Competition, where I was very impressed by her entrepreneurship skills, and is a national winner of the Next Top Young Entrepreneur Award with YEA. So, Lila, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me, and I'm very excited to begin this podcast. But I'm 17 and I live in Manhattan Beach, California, and I've always been really interested in entrepreneurship from a young age. So I'm very excited to talk about my business, Maji.
So, what inspired you to start your business?
So when I was younger, my little sister always forgot to wash her hands. It was a daily struggle in my house. My parents were always trying to remind her to wash her hands because it's a vital skill to develop when you're really young. But at the same time, she really loved these collectible toys called Shopkins. So around that time period, I got a soap making kit in the mail. It was a subscription service from Christmas. And I learned how to make a bar soap. So at the time, I put one of my collectible toys inside of a soap. So when I gave her that bar soap, she started washing her hands because she was excited about getting to the toy on the inside. That was when I was like 10, so I never really got the chance to start a business at that age until I got to high school. So I was 14 and I enrolled in the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, where they taught me how to build a business, walked me through how to make a business plan, create a presentation and a pitch. And that's how I started my brand. I was taught by them and I received funding. And then I just started direct to consumer. So I've just been doing like flea markets on my website too, is where I sell.
That's really cool. And so, how did you see that problem and focus on that problem, especially because it's a very narrow issue that's not really talked about? It's the first time I hear about this.
Yeah, I think it was just because of my personal experience and because I saw it so much. I just wanted to find a problem that I knew that other people weren't really looking at, because that is when you can find your blue oceans, and that is when you can really work into a niche that no one else has tackled before.
So, you mentioned how you first manufactured your soaps using the kit you got at Christmas. Now, how do you manufacture your soaps?
Yeah, so originally I just got the super rudimentary soap making kit where, it was like making a candle. You just melt down some glycerin instead of the wax of a candle, and you pour it into a mold, and there is your soap. So now I use this process called the cold press method. So I combine a mixture of oils with lye, which is sodium hydroxide and water, and that creates this cake batter like consistency. And I pour that into a mold where it just creates this more artisanal soap that is of higher quality. And that way I really know what's going into my soaps, and I can ensure that it's organic and it won't hurt the hands of children, which I think is very important, especially for my target market. And it also frees up my creativity to add different colors and scents and to level up my brand, which I think was a good choice for my soaps.
Yeah. And so, you found out how to manufacture these soaps through research.
Yeah, it took research. I was watching so many YouTube videos about how to make soaps, and so I just started making as many recipes as I could, and to find like this perfect consistency that I liked. So I created my own recipe from that, and that like really just helped my prototyping process.
How did you initially market and sell your product?
So I really just talked about my story like all the time. If I ever had parents coming up to my booths at flea markets or at like local fairs, I would just tell them about my experiences and then about my sister. And then I also decided to make my business purpose driven. So I partnered with the Thirst Project, which builds clean water wells all over the world. And that way, I'm really helping kids from all different sides of the equation get into or give them access to hygienic services, which the most basic kind is clean water. So when I tell that story along with my sister's story, it just really sells my consumers. And I just think that by creating a brand with a purpose and with a very clear vision, that makes it much harder for your consumers to say no to a product that just seems like a good brand.
That's really good advice. So what I'm taking away is that you need that personal touch to help sell instead of just putting out ads.
Yeah, definitely. I think that every brand really either needs like a face of the brand or some kind of cartoon that's marketing it. They just need something that tells this consistent story throughout your entire marketing process. And I also did that through like weaving it into my packaging and my logo. So Maji means water in Swahili, which is the official language of Kenya, which is a major country that the Thirst Project works in, which is where I also can weave in that water message. And then in my logo, the A is a water droplet.
And I'm also wondering, you talked about selling at flea markets. Do you need to pay to sell at fairs? And how do you make sure that that's profitable for you?
Yeah, normally you do, but some markets you don't. For example, my high school always puts on a TEDx event, and that is an event where speakers come and they conference. But then outside of that, there's an exposition, which is where I usually have a booth. So if you're struggling to originally like make those first few dollars so that you can purchase a spot at a major flea market, then I recommend going to just like awareness areas where you can pass out flyers or pass out little samples of your products just to like get the word out. And once you do get that initial capital to go to a flea market or to this or to like a local fair, that is when you just really start selling your story and figuring out what works well with your consumers. These people you might never see them again, so just test out like whatever you think is the best way to sell your brand, and eventually your pitch will develop and continue growing. Like whenever you have your first flea market, you can use that as a test day. And if your product really isn't selling, I would recommend making some major changes to either the packaging or if you got any feedback from people that you are selling to. Obviously listen to them, even if it's difficult feedback. Um, and the way that I always make sure that it's profitable is I'm always posting on Instagram, so then that way I'll know that people will actually be coming. Like prior to my event, I'll send out reminders. And creating repeat customers is extremely important. So once you figure out that perfect sauce of the story and the actual effectiveness of your company, then that is the way that I know that um, going to these markets is profitable.
I love that mentality of how you're never going to see them again, so try as much as you can. And how did you get this idea of iterating and refining your pitch? And how did you learn that from someone? Did you get feedback?
Yeah, I think my dad really helped a lot with that because a few years ago, my parents started their company and their brand gives back to ocean conservation. That way, I really got to learn how a purpose-driven brand with like a story coming from the founder can really like streamline through um, like consumers' brains and like get to their hearts and like just make them emotionally like excited about this brand. So my dad taught me that part of it. And the way that I developed my pitch, obviously through the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, but outside of that, I just kept telling my friends and family about what my brand was. And if I ever like gave them a soap, I would do a quick pitch about what my brand is so that they can tell their friends about it. And eventually, just after doing that so many times, you'll get good at it.
And apart from the personal touch, for the people that love your brand, what makes them come back? Is it the scent, the value, or just the little toy that motivates their kids to wash their hands? What do you think?
It's definitely a combination of all of them, but I think the biggest thing is just that it actually works. So if you have good marketing, that'll get you like single customers, but having an actual effective product will get you repeat customers. So I would always recommend just market test your brand as many times as possible, ask for feedback from your friends and family that are using it.
How did you fund your business in the early days? What advice would you give to young entrepreneurs who do not have as much money to start with?
I was really lucky with this. I enrolled in the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, which has an initial capital, or you could take college classes about business. Just having a little bit of background makes all the difference. And at the end of that, the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, they had a pitch competition. And at my regional level, I received over $1,000 in funding. And when I eventually got to the national level, I got another $5,000 from that. But if you don't have access to an academy like them or angel investors that they had, then I would recommend just test out your brand as many times as possible. You can always ask for like friends or family or go to like networking events, either if that's like at your Rotary or like a city hall event. And then also if you are able to do this, just start selling your brands to like maybe individual friends and family so you can get that initial capital and just continue reinvesting it into your brand.
Thank you for telling us about the academy. I had no idea something like that existed, so it's really
Yeah.
helpful. And what were the biggest expenses to get started? Was it the materials, marketing, or company creation?
It was definitely the materials because oils can get very expensive, and that was definitely a major part of making the soaps. And I think it was also just buying like the mixers, the bowls, the molds, all of that, but I know that I haven't spent much money on marketing. I can just go direct to consumer in my area, and the way that I've done that is as I like continue to win these business competitions, I'm published in like local newspapers, or if I there's just like so many different ways that you can get brand exposure without having to pay anything. And creating reels on Instagram or TikToks or and putting up posters around your area, and then just showing up at those flea markets and fairs is definitely great ways to gain exposure without having to pay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And so now I think it would be a good time to have a little look at your website and at your product because we've been talking a lot about it. First of all, I love how the colors, but how it's not too much and how they go together really well, and how your website is very simple. How did you get inspired to create for the design of this website?
Thanks. I think I was just mostly inspired by the logo that I had because I really I wanted to create this consistent brand. So by continuing those colors throughout my website, it was a way for people to recognize it. And I also just didn't want to overcomplicate it because I just know how simple it can be to overcomplicate a brand or a website page, and you just lose consumers that way if it's too confusing. So I wanted to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, and it definitely is. So let's look at your product. So, for example, for products like these, how do you manage the different business aspects, such as marketing, finances, and operations? Do you have a team?
I don't have a team, but I do have my family, which both my parents can have helped me in like a number of different ways. But and for people who don't have family members in entrepreneurship, I would definitely recommend just cold emailing founders because they are always just so happy to help the next generation. Like, as long as you have that initiative to go ask for help, there's going to be at least a few people wanting to give back.
I know that some people are really scared of just cold emailing and cold calling, so it's really good to know that um, older entrepreneurs do want to help our generation. And so, how did you
Yeah.
decide on the price of each product?
So I initially started out with my products being $5 each, and whenever like I sold at markets that it was way too cheap, and like the other artisanal soap brand down the road is charging $15 a soap. And then eventually I got to this point where I realized that with my $5 I wasn't making I didn't have a good profit margin. So I would just always consider looking at doing lots of market research. Like, I was looking at Dove soaps, and then I was looking at Shock and Toys, which both of them had a price range of like probably $4 to like $7. I would just consider looking at different companies that resemble your brand, but in the context of who you're selling it to and where you're selling it.
While I'm sharing my screen, let's look at the different tools that were most helpful in starting your business. So, for example, what tool did you use to build this website?
I used Wix and it was super easy. I just created an account over spring break, and that in that 1 week I made that whole website, and it really walks you through it the entire way. And I know there's so many like YouTube channels that just teach you about all the different tricks with it. So just experiment with these types of website builders. They're really helpful.
Yeah, so let's have a little look. I've used Wix before. I think that it's a great website to help build, especially because it's no code.
hmm
Um, so yeah, this is really cool. And so, what social medias do you use to promote your business? You talked about Instagram, but are there any others?
Right now, I'm just using Instagram because I think the other ones are they just take too much time. I will like eventually create a TikTok channel. I just don't think it's worth it right now because I'm working on like getting a manufacturer just because I can't really keep up with the amount of soaps that I need to make. And I think my time is just better spent other places, but it's something I definitely want to work on.
I think also for Spark Buddies, marketing is something that I'm gonna have to get into a little bit more. So it's good to know that I'm not alone on this.
Yeah.
And so also to manage finances, what tools do you use?
For finances, that I leave that more to my dad because he has a background in all of that, and he is the one that opens Maji's bank account, and um, yeah. But if I'm actually at like events, I figured out that you kind of need the either like the Square app on your phone, like external gadget that like you can just tap your Apple Wallet onto, because no one carries cash anymore. So if you do have a direct to consumer brand, definitely invest in some kind of like credit card service or app on your phone that accepts Apple Wallets or Apple Pay.
Also, I saw on your website while we were having a look that you were mentioned in Forbes. How did you manage to get mentioned in Forbes? That's really impressive.
Thank you. They were doing an article about like young entrepreneurs, and if your child is interested in entrepreneurship, like this is what to do. And so then they featured the Young Entrepreneurs Academy in that, and they talked about my brand and how I won their competition.
We talked a lot about the positives, but what are some of the challenges that you faced when starting your business? Did you ever doubt yourself, and how did you push through that?
I think I mostly just doubted like my experience with it because I was just like so young, and I hadn't really had any experience with um like the struggles of like starting a business. For example, like when I first wrote my business plan, I was terrified of it because I thought it was just going to be this monstrous document that was going to be staring at me for like months. But once I actually started, it was so much easier than I thought it would be. So I think just if you like overestimate your abilities and you think that you can do anything, it's just really going to help you in this industry if you can just continue to try. as many things as possible when starting your brand. And if you just believe in it and its possibility to succeed, that'll definitely help you in the long run.
Yeah, and when you look at entrepreneurship programs that you participated in, what are some of the characteristics of people who make it versus some who just give up?
I think it's people who come in with an idea in their mind that they're really confident in, or they've seen like great performance in their market research. And market research is this like scary term, but it's really just asking people like if the brand, if the product worked for them, and asking for people's opinions on it and how you can improve it. So for me, an example of that was just asking the parents how the soaps went when I gave the soap to their kids, or asking the kids how they felt using the soaps every day. So through that, I could tweak my product to ensure that it was as, yeah, as like perfect as I could make it. And that's when I went to those competitions or those programs, is through that process is how I became confident in my brand. And another big characteristic of people who do win are people who can give good pitches, because I think that's super important just to lay down your confidence as thick as you can. Because when you show other people and your judges that you are confident in your brand and that you believe in its success, then it'll help them believe in that as well. And I think lastly, just creating this story that you can see, just staying consistent throughout their whole brand. It makes it so much easier for people who are going to help you with marketing. Um, it makes it easier for them to continue to like expand your topic and expand your brand to more people. So when you show them that you don't have like inventor syndrome where you just want to continue making more brands and not focus on your single niche and product, then that is definitely super important.
Yeah, thank you so much for that's really helped us understand. And sorry. if- What is a milestone or achievement that you are most proud of so far?
I'm most proud of my work that I do with the Thirst Project, because that is just a huge way that I've shown myself that my brand has succeeded. And I would definitely recommend making any brand that you start purpose driven, because it automatically adds this super personal story to your brand that makes it so much easier to pitch, and it makes it easier for other people to fall in love with it, because you are doing something bigger than just making money. And so the work that I've done with the Thirst Project has eventually led me to continue working with them outside of my company, because I know that I'm not going to be creating this huge income of capital until I have expanded into retail stores and expanded into like a national brand. So I've started raising money for them through a club at my school that I started, and just like seeing the growth of the people that I'm working with at my school that are learning about the water crisis and about how they can help others has been really cool. And we've so far funded two and almost three water wells, which has impacted over 800 people. So that has got to be hundreds of kids that now have access to hygienic resources.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think it's very inspiring how you were able to connect your project to a bigger problem. But how did you get the Thirst Project to come on board with partnering with you? Did you just continue cold emailing, or how did this begin?
Yeah. So, it just honestly started with me creating a fundraising page on their website, because I knew that either way I wanted to support them. And from there, I started raising money, and every like 5% that I had in my company, I would donate that to the Thirst Project. And so I had like a personal connection to the nonprofit, so I reached out to them, and they were really supportive of what I was doing, and they decided to like they just continued to like promote what I was doing, um, like by supporting me on my team page, and they helped me create the club that I started at my school. So honestly, if you do want to support a nonprofit, just create that team page, start donating to them. They're always open to having more funds. And eventually, once they start to talk to you, then that's when you can say that you've partnered with them to help make this dream of like helping whatever you are doing by fundraising.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank you.
Mhm.
And what's one big lesson about entrepreneurship that you wish you knew when you first started your journey?
I think it's I think it's just to, like, start when you're confident because or not that, but, like, start early because you just really learn so much just through, like, trial and error, and by working with the Young Entrepreneurs Academy, it was so helpful for me just to, like, learn how everyone else is doing in that, like, cohort of young entrepreneurs, and I really saw that I wasn't alone, which helped me with my confidence of going through this whole process of making my brands bigger. So, yeah, just starting when you're sure that you have this idea that you think that other people can benefit from and not being scared of going for that.
Yeah. And where do you see Maji Soap going in the next few years? Are there any new ideas or projects that you're excited about?
Yeah, I'm super excited about this, but um with the Blue Ocean competition, a few of the judges were really interested in my company. So they decided to email me and ask me if they could get on my project and help me create this company and bring it to consumers. So, one of the judges is helping me create this brand and continue to move it forward, um, possibly on a national level. We're not really sure right now, but we're working with toy designers and we're also working with manufacturers. And eventually, in a few years, hopefully, you'll see Maji on the shelves.
Yeah, wow, that's really cool.
Thank
And
you.
also, how do you as you prepare for college and as you get busier, are you going to continue Maji or are you just how are you going to handle it in the future?
I'm not totally sure how I'm going to handle all of this, but I am going to continue Machi because it's become a major part of my life and something I'm really passionate about. So I think it's always really important to continue with things that you care about, even as you do get busier, because you'll always be able to make time for things that you like and things that spark that fire into you. And those things will continue to motivate me to go through college and work on my assignments. So as I get into college, I think I'm going to focus on not taking on too many responsibilities, which I think is something I could have improved on throughout my high school career. Just, I think knowing your niche and knowing that you don't have to do everything is super important. And I'm just going to really focus on my business and then focus on like just making college like as much as I can make it. And yeah, not stressing too much about what will happen after and what's going to happen in the future because I know it's just so important to focus on like the present and continue growing the things that I care about.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked about even if you don't have a big team, you've mentioned people coming in and helping you just like the judges. Do you think that at one point you'll need to give away shares of your company when more people get involved?
Yeah, yeah. I think that the judges that are helping me with my company will definitely be taking a portion of my brand, but from that, they're not taking it. They're expanding it. They're making it um more than anything I could have made it, which is really just like a blessing to the brand because it's not just going to stay a small business, hopefully. It'll just continue to become something bigger and larger. So for that reason, I'm not scared of giving up a portion of my equity or yeah, anything like that.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to think about it because I think that when high schoolers, when we start a business, we mostly want to hang on to everything and we're really scared of letting go. So I love how you're looking at it in a way that other people are helping you expand it rather than taking it away from you.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And finally, what advice would you give to other young entrepreneurs who want to start their own business?
I would say just go for it and continue just like following your passion of starting this brand because once you actually do really try and put in everything that you have into creating it, you're gonna see either your brand will succeed or you'll learn so much from it, which I think is just so important for entrepreneurs to get their feet in the water and start learning from their past experiences, which I think is just really an exciting thing about entrepreneurship that you can just start and yeah, and just grow from failure, which is something that I wish that I did if I like came up with my brand even earlier and I had this other opportunity before. I definitely would have ran and went at whatever entrepreneurship program I had. So the fact that I ended up with the Entrepreneurs Academy is really like a testament to um yeah, starting early and going for it.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on here and teaching us about your journey. You gave so many different pieces of advice that definitely helped. And I see the dedication you have towards Maji, which is very inspiring. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Esther. This was so much fun.